You are a very powerful organization.
This is a chilling descent into the darkest underbelly of society, where entire families rule with ruthless precision. These bloodlines of brutality operate with an efficiency that defies comprehension, their power stretching far beyond what most dare to imagine. Bound by loyalty and driven by generations of violence, these are the 14 most dangerous crime families in the world. Number 14, Yakuza. Deep within Japan's intricate cultural fabric lies a powerful criminal organization known as the Yakuza. Operating much like a mafia, the Yakuza have ruled the streets with an unyielding grip for centuries, wreaking havoc and causing losses of lives and properties. Their influence has since stretched far beyond Japan, even reaching the shores of Western countries like the United States, recognizable by their intricate full-body tattoos and their loyalty to samurai-like rituals. The Yakuza hold dominion over a significant portion of Japan's illegal underworld. From blackmail to smuggling, the Yakuza are deeply rooted in almost every form of illegal activity. But their influence doesn't stop there. And although they control various legitimate businesses, including restaurants, bars, trucking companies, talent agencies, and even large factories as fronts, which have made them a force to be reckoned with. But despite their attempts at running legitimate businesses to divert attention away from their illegal activities, they remain deeply involved in drug trafficking and prostitution. The group also runs a gambling and loan sharking ring that's been responsible for a large percentage of money laundered in Japan. The origins of the Yakuza are hidden in mystery, with historians debating whether they arose from masterless samurai known as ronin who turned to banditry, or from noble warriors who once protected the people from these rogue samurai in the early 17th century. By the 1960s, the Yakuza had grown into a massive force with over 180,000 members. But as the 21st century dawned, their numbers had reduced significantly, leaving around 88,000 members and associates still operating in the shadows. Over the years, the group has shifted from violent street crimes to more corporate-style criminal activities, but this has taken nothing away from their reputation as one of the most violent criminal organizations in the world. Despite the government's ongoing efforts to suppress their operations, the Yakuza's roots run deep, making the task of eradicating them seem almost impossible. Number 13. Solntsevskaya Bratva. In the late 1980s, the Solntsevskaya gang emerged in Moscow, founded by Sergei Mikhailov, who had previously served time in prison for fraud and had once worked as a waiter. The gang established its base in the Solntsevo district, where Mikhailov recruited young, unemployed men with a violent streak to serve as enforcers. To further solidify their standing in the criminal world, the gang aligned themselves with Jemal Kachidze, a notorious thief-in-law, a respected title in the Russian underworld that bolstered their reputation among seasoned criminals. The Solntsevo district's location was crucial to their operations. It sat near the M3 highway leading to Ukraine, the Moscow Ring Road, and Vnukovo International Airport, three important transportation centers. This strategic positioning gave the gang control over a key route for importing cars, a lucrative business they soon dominated. They controlled a car theft ring and soon became responsible for a large number of missing cars in Moscow. However, by the early 1990s, their dominance came under threat from a powerful rival, the Chechen Mafia. To protect their territory and business interests, the Solntsevskaya gang formed an alliance with the Orakhovskaya gang and other Slavic criminal groups. This led to a brutal gang war that left many dead. One of the most notorious incidents was a violent shootout at the Kazakhstan cinema, where 6 Chechens and 4 Russians were killed. Following the collapse of the Soviet Union, chaos ensued across Russia, which the Solntsevskaya gang exploited to gain more power. They used this period of instability to form alliances with influential politicians, allowing them to manipulate the government for their own advantage. With their newfound influence, the gang also began purchasing legitimate businesses such as banks, casinos, and even Vnukovo Airport, using them to launder their illicit money. At one point, the gang was linked to the infamous crime boss, Semyon Mogilevich, known for his global criminal network. Through Mogilevich, the Sontsevskaya laundered large sums of money. But in 1995, things took a dramatic turn when Mikhailov and Uzbek drug lord Gafur Rakimov were suspected of plotting to kill Mogilevich at a party in a Prague hotel. Czech police, tipped off about the assassination plan, raided the event. Fortunately for Mogilevich, he had been warned in advance and was nowhere to be found during the raid. Number 12. Kamora. The city of Naples became the stronghold of a dangerous gang known as the Kamora during the 19th century. Although little is documented about the group's origins, it is believed that the Kamora may have started as far back as the 15th century in Spain before making its way to Italy. Over time, the Kamora grew in both ruthlessness and power, becoming involved in a wide range of criminal activities. These included smuggling, blackmail, extortion and armed robberies, kidnappings and drug trafficking. After Italy's unification in 1861, authorities launched an extensive effort to dismantle the gang, starting with a series of intense manhunts in 1882. These crackdowns began to weaken the Kamora's grip on power, and in response, the group tried to gain political influence by placing their own members in government positions. However, in the Neapolitan elections of 1901, all of the Kamora's candidates were soundly defeated, further reducing their influence. Despite this blow, the Kamora managed to survive and adapt. By the 1980s, they had shifted their focus to the highly profitable drug trade, expanding their reach beyond Italy's borders. Operating in a structure similar to that of the Italian Mafia, the Kamora now boasts over 10,000 members worldwide, with their influence still being felt both in Italy and across the globe. Number 11. Gambino crime family. The Gambino crime family is a notorious Italian-American mafia organization and one of the 5 families that control organized crime in New York City. This group, which has had a complex history of leadership, became widely known during the McClellan hearings in 1963, when organized crime first caught public attention. The family is named after Carlo Gambino, who was its boss during this period. Originally, the Gambino family was one of several crime families that emerged in New York after the Castellamarese War of 1931. For many years, it was relatively minor in the organized crime world. The most notable figure during this time was Albert Anastasia, the underboss who became infamous for running a brutal enforcement arm known as Murder Incorporated. After the collapse of Murder, incorporated in the late 1940s, Anastasia took over the family in 1951, reportedly after killing its founder, Vincent Mangano. The family was then known as the Anastasia crime family. The Gambino family truly rose to power in 1957 when Anastasia was assassinated while getting a haircut at the Park Sheraton Hotel in Manhattan. It is believed that his underboss, Carlo Gambino, organized the hit to seize control. Gambino then allied with Meyer Lansky to dominate gambling operations in Cuba. Under Gambino's leadership, the family's influence grew significantly until his death in 1976, after which his brother-in-law, Paul Castellano, took over Castellano's leadership angered rising star John Gotti, who arranged Castellano's murder in 1985. Gotti's reign ended in 1992 when his underboss, Salvatore "Sammy the Bull" Gravano, turned informant and helped the FBI dismantle the Gambino family's top ranks. The family was led by Frank Colli, starting in 2015 until his assassination outside his Staten Island home on March 13, 2019. Number 10. Genovese crime family. The Genovesi crime family, often called the West Side, is one of the most influential Italian-American mafia families in New York City and New Jersey as part of the larger American mafia. This crime family, which is one of the so-called 5 families that dominate organized crime in the region, has extended its influence beyond New York, forming connections with smaller mob families in Philadelphia, Cleveland, Buffalo, and the Patriarca family. Originally founded by Charles Lucky Luciano, the family was known as the Luciano crime family from 1931 to 1957. It was during this latter period that Vito Genovesi took over as boss. Genovesi led the family during the famous McClellan hearings in 1963, which is when the five families were officially named. Initially, the Genovesi family controlled the bustling waterfront areas of Manhattan, including the docks and the Fulton Fish Market. From 1981 to 2025, the family was under the leadership of Vincent the Chin Gigante, also known as the Odd Father. Gigante famously avoided legal trouble by pretending to be insane, walking around New York's Greenwich Village in an untidy bathrobe and mumbling to himself. The Genovesi family is the oldest and largest of the five families. In the 21st century, it adapted to new opportunities, exploiting weaknesses in bank due diligence during the housing bubble to engage in mortgage fraud. Prosecutors have revealed that victims of loan sharks often used home equity loans to settle debts with mobsters. The family also embraced modern technology, enhancing illegal gambling operations with internet-based offshore betting. After Gigante's death in 2005, there was uncertainty about the family's leadership. However, it is believed that Liborio Barney Bellomo is now the boss. In December 2021, the FBI identified the Genovese family as the largest and most powerful of the five families. The Genovese family stands out in today's mafia world for its loyalty to omertà, a strict code of silence that forbids cooperation with law enforcement. Despite the increasing number of gangsters testifying against their organizations since the 1980s, only 11 Genovese members and associates have ever turned state's evidence. In April 1998, Detective Joseph J. Coffey of the New York Organized Crime Task Force referred to the Genovesi family as the Ivy League of the underworld, highlighting its unique and influential position in organized crime. Number 9. Columbo crime family. The Columbo crime family is one of the notorious five families that control organized crime in New York City, specifically within the American Mafia. It is the youngest of these five powerful families. The Columbo family's rise began in the aftermath of the Castellamarese War, a violent power struggle within the Mafia. After the deaths of key Mafia bosses Joe the Boss Masseria and Salvatore Maranzano, Lucky Luciano reorganized the Mafia, and the gang led by Joseph Profaci was officially recognized as the Profaci crime family. The roots of the Columbo family trace back to 1928, when Joseph Profaci established a bootlegging operation and were involved in extortion and drug trafficking. Under Profaci's leadership, the family operated without major disruption until the late 1950s. However, internal strife troubled the family, starting with a major conflict in the late 1950s. During this period, Joe Gallo challenged Profaci's authority, leading to a fierce internal battle. The conflict subsided in the early 1960s, following Gallo's arrest and Profaci's death from cancer. The family was later reunited under Joseph Columbo. In 1971, the family faced its second major war when Gallo, newly released from prison, was shot, and a factional struggle erupted. Supporters of Columbo, led by Carmine Persico, ultimately triumphed, driving out the remaining Gallo associates to the Genovese family by 1975. The Columbo family enjoyed over 15 years of relative peace under Persico and a series of acting bosses. However, in 1991, the family was engaged into its third and most violent conflict when acting boss Victor Orena attempted to overthrow the imprisoned Persico. This power struggle divided the family into factions loyal to either Orena or Persico, leading to 2 years of chaos and bloodshed. By 1993, the war had claimed 12 lives, and Orena was imprisoned, leaving Persico as the victor. Despite his continued leadership until his death in prison in 2019, the family was left in ruins. The 2000s further weakened the Columbo crime family due to numerous convictions in federal fraud cases and several members turning government witnesses. As of 2011, many law enforcement agencies consider the Columbo crime family to be the weakest of the 5 families in New York City. Number 8. Bonano crime family. The Bonano crime family is a major Italian-American mafia group and one of the 5 families that control organized crime like drug trafficking and illegal gambling in New York City, which is known as the American Mafia. Originally called the Maranzano crime family, it was founded by Salvatore Maranzano. However, Maranzano was murdered in 1931. After his death, Joseph Bonano took over most of Maranzano's operations, when Charles Lucky Luciano set up the commission to divide the criminal enterprises in New York City among the 5 families. Under Bonano's leadership from the 1930s to the 1960s, the family became one of the most influential criminal organizations in the country. In the early 1960s, Bonano tried to overthrow several leaders of the commission, but failed. This led to his disappearance between 1964 and 1966, sparking a violent internal conflict known as the Banana War that lasted until 1968, when Bonano retired to Arizona. During the late 1970s and early 1980s, the Bonano family was infiltrated by FBI agent Joseph Pistone, who operated undercover as Donnie Brasco. This undercover operation led to the Bonano family becoming the first of the New York families to be expelled from the commission. It wasn't until the 1990s, under the leadership of new boss Joseph Massino, that the family began to recover. By the early 2000s, the Bonano family had not only regained its position on the commission, but had also become the second most powerful family in New York, following the Genovesi family. Despite these gains, the early 2000s saw a series of convictions that led to Massino becoming a government informant, the first boss of one of the 5 families in New York City to do so. Throughout the 20th century, the Bonano family was known for being one of the most brutal of the 5 families. Number 7. Patriarcha crime family. The Patriarcha crime family, often called the New England Mafia, Boston Mafia, Providence Mafia, or simply The Office, is a notorious Italian-American organized crime group operating in the New England region of the United States. This family has 2 main branches, one in Providence, Rhode Island, and the other in Boston, Massachusetts. Their influence extends through Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut, with various other territories throughout New England. Raymond Patriarcha took control of the family in 1954 and ran the organization from his base in the Federal Hill neighborhood of Providence until his death in 1984. Under his rule, the Patriarcha crime family thrived on illegal activities like gambling, loan sharking, pornography, and dealing in stolen goods. Patriarcha also had a financial interest in the Dunes Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas, where he benefited from draining off a portion of the casino's earnings. At its height, the family boasted over 100 made men, or officially recognized members. After Raymond Patriarcha Sr. passed away, his son, Raymond Patriarcha Jr., took over leadership. However, Patriarcha Jr. struggled to lead effectively and faced challenges from within, including a failed coup by Joseph J.R. Russo, the aide from the Boston faction, in the late 1980s. In 1992, both Patriarcha Jr. and Russo, along with several others, were convicted on RICO charges. Following their downfall, Boston mobster Frank Salem took over as the family boss. The 1990s were marked by internal strife as Robert F. Carrozza, a rebel Boston hoodlum, contested Salem's control. Both Salem and Carrozza were eventually imprisoned, leading to Luigi Manocchio assuming leadership in 1996 and shifting the family's power base back to Providence. Today, the Patriarcha crime family is led by Carmen the Cheese Man D'Annunzio, who represents the Boston faction. As of 2012, the family's ranks are estimated to include about 30 made members. Number 6. Detroit Partnership. The Detroit Partnership, also known by a variety of names including the Detroit Crime Family, Detroit Combination, Detroit Mafia, Zerilli Crime Family, and Taco Zerilli Crime Family, is a notorious Italian-American mafia group based in Detroit, Michigan. This criminal organization primarily operates in Detroit and its surrounding areas, but also has a presence in places like Windsor, Ontario, Toledo, Ohio, and even Las Vegas. Italian organized crime in Detroit first emerged through Black Hand extortion rings, targeting the city's Southern Italian and Sicilian immigrant communities. In the early 20th century, a series of gang conflicts erupted over control of Italian lottery and extortion rackets. Eventually, a period of relative peace was established under Salvatore Catalanot's leadership. During Prohibition, a Detroit mafia group known as the River Gang was instrumental in smuggling Canadian beer and liquor into the United States, dominating the bootlegging market in southeast Michigan. They also forged strong ties with Toledo, a major center for illegal whiskey. In the early 1930s, internal conflicts known as the Crosstown Mob Wars further reshaped the Detroit Mafia. By the end of these conflicts, the modern Detroit Partnership emerged, led by influential figures such as Angelo Melli, Joseph Zerilli, William Black Bill Taco, John Priciola, and Peter Licavoli. Throughout the 1940s and 1950s, the organization solidified its control over the Detroit-Windsor region. At its height in the 1960s, it boasted around 100 made men. Post-World War II, the partnership leveraged its connections with the Sicilian Mafia to become a major heroin distributor in North America. In the 1960s and 1970s, they infiltrated Nevada's casino industry, draining off profits from establishments like the Frontier and the Aladdin in Las Vegas and the Edgewater in Laughlin. They were also heavily involved in horse racing, drug trafficking, and illegal sports betting, despite its secretive operations allowing it to evade major law enforcement actions for decades. The partnership's power was diminished by the 1996 FBI Operation Game Tax, which led to numerous allegations under the RICO Act. Nevertheless, the Detroit family persists into the 21st century, with an estimated 40 to 50 made members as of 2011. Number 5. Chicago Outfit. The Chicago Outfit, also known by many names including the Outfit, the Chicago Mafia, the Chicago Mob, the Chicago Crime Family, the South Side Gang, or simply the organization, is a notorious Italian-American mafia crime family. It was founded on Chicago's South Side in 1910 and has become a significant player in the larger Italian-American mafia network. The outfit rose to prominence during the 1920s under the leadership of Johnny Torrio and Al Capone. This era was marked by fierce gang wars as they battled for control of the illegal alcohol trade during Prohibition. Over the years, the outfit has been involved in a variety of criminal activities, including loan sharking, illegal gambling, prostitution, extortion, political corruption, and murder. After Capone's conviction for income tax evasion in 1931, Paul Ricca took over the leadership. Ricca shared power with Tony Accardo from 1943 until his death in 1972. Accardo then became the sole leader of the outfit and remained in power until his death in 1992, making him one of the longest-serving crime bosses in history. Although the outfit has never completely controlled organized crime in Chicago, it has been the largest, most influential, and most violent criminal organization in both Chicago and the Midwest for decades. Unlike other mafia groups, such as the Five Families of New York City, the outfit has maintained a unified front since its inception. At its height, its influence extended across California, Florida, and Nevada. Today, it continues to operate across the Midwest, Southern Florida, Las Vegas, and other parts of the southwestern United States. Number 4. LA Mafia. The Los Angeles crime family, often referred to as the Dragna crime family, the Southern California crime family, or simply the LA Mafia, has been a notable part of the Italian-American mafia scene. Former Los Angeles Police Chief Daryl Gates even nicknamed them the Mickey Mouse Mafia due to their less intimidating image compared to other crime families. Founded in the early 20th century, this crime family has been rooted in Los Angeles, California, and expanded its influence across Southern California. Like many other mafia families in the United States, the LA Mafia built its fortune and power by smuggling alcohol, extortion, and labor racketeering during the Prohibition era. The family's influence peaked in the 1940s and early 1950s, under the leadership of Jack Dragna. However, despite its prominence, the Los Angeles crime family was never as large or powerful as its counterparts in New York or Chicago. Since Jack Dragna's death in 1956, the family has been in a slow decline. The Chicago outfit has represented them on The Commission, a key decision-making body in the mafia. Much of what we know about the history of the Los Angeles crime family comes from courtroom testimonies and the histories of Aladina, Jimmy the Weasel, Fratiano. Fratiano, who testified against mafia members in the late 1970s, was the second person and the first acting boss in American mafia history to do so. Since the 1980s, the Racketeer-Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, RICO Act, have been instrumental in convicting mafia members and diminishing their power. Like all mafia families in the US, the LA Mafia now holds only a fraction of its former influence. With a smaller Italian-American population in the region, the family faces competition from various street gangs of different ethnic backgrounds. Today, the Los Angeles crime family stands as the last remaining mafia family in California. Number 3. Montreal Mafia. The Rizzuto crime family is an Italian-Canadian organized crime group based in Montreal, Quebec, with activities stretching across much of southern Quebec and Ontario. While the Federal Bureau of Investigation (FBI) in the United States views them as part of the Bonano crime family from New York City, Canadian authorities and most other international law enforcement agencies see them as a separate, independent organization. Often, they are referred to as the sixth family in the world of organized crime. The Rizzuto family's origins trace back to the 1970s, when Niccolo Rizzuto, a Sicilian immigrant from Cattolica Eraclea, founded the group. He initially joined forces with the Sicilian faction of the Cotroni crime family, which was based in Montreal. However, by the late 1970s, an internal conflict within the Cotroni family erupted, leading to the deaths of their acting captain Paolo Violi and his brothers. This power vacuum allowed the Rizzuto family to rise to dominance, overtaking the Cotronis and establishing themselves as Montreal's leading crime family. Niccolo Rizzuto earned the nicknames the Canadian Godfather and the Boss of the Mafia in Canada, as described by the international organized crime expert Antonio Nicasso. Niccolo's son, Vito Rizzuto, faced imprisonment from 2007 to 2012 for his involvement in murders from 1981. His imprisonment led to a power struggle among Montreal's criminal underworld. During Vito's time in prison, tragedy struck the Rizzuto family. His son, Niccolo Jr., was killed in 2009, and Niccolo Sr. was shot by a sniper at his home in 2010. Upon Vito's release, a series of violent acts were suspected to be revenge for the attacks on his family. Vito Rizzuto passed away from natural causes in 2013, and leadership of the Rizzuto crime family is now believed to rest with his son, Leonardo Rizzuto. Number 2. Philadelphia crime family. The Philadelphia crime family, also known by several names such as the Bruno Scarfo crime family, the Philadelphia Atlantic City crime family, the Philadelphia Mafia, the Philly Mafia, or the Philadelphia South Jersey Mafia, is an Italian-American mafia organization based in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Originally formed and headquartered in South Philadelphia, this notorious crime family operates mainly in Philadelphia and the surrounding metropolitan area, including South Jersey. Known for its violent history, the family has been marked by brutal leadership changes and numerous mob wars. Under the leadership of Angelo Bruno, who was boss from 1959 to 1980s, the family experienced a period of peace and prosperity. Bruno's reign, lasting 21 years, was characterized by relative calm and success. However, his assassination in 1980, triggered by conflicts with disgruntled subordinates and territorial disputes with the New York Genovese crime family, set off a turbulent era. Bruno's murder ignited a series of internal conflicts over control of the Philadelphia family, leading to a decline in the organization's stability. Philip, the Chicken Man, Testa, a trusted ally of Bruno, succeeded him as boss. Tragically, Testa was killed in 1981 by a nail bomb explosion, just a year after Bruno's death. With Testa's death, Nicodemo Little Nicky Scarfo rose to power, leading the family during a troubled decade known as the Scarfo crime family era. Scarfo's rule, lasting about 10 years, was marked by increased violence and instability. Unlike Bruno, Scarfo was infamous for his explosive temper and aggressive tactics. He expanded the family's involvement in drug trafficking and imposed a street tax on other criminals operating in his territory. Scarfo did not shy away from ordering murders over minor disputes, which drew heightened attention from the FBI, Pennsylvania State Police, and New Jersey State Police. The escalation in violence and law enforcement efforts led several hoodlums to turn on the family in exchange for leniency. Scarfo's reign ended in 1988, when he and many of his top associates were arrested and sentenced to lengthy prison terms. After Scarfo's imprisonment, the family's leadership was questioned, and in 1991, John Stanfa was installed as the new boss. However, his leadership faced immediate challenges from a faction of younger criminals led by Joey Merlino, resulting in another internal conflict by 1992. The infighting continued until 1994, when Stanfa and his supporters were arrested by the FBI. Though irregular violence persisted until 1996 and even extended into the early 2000s. Ultimately, Merlino emerged victorious and took control of the family. He has reportedly been leading the organization to varying extents ever since. Despite enduring significant setbacks due to internal strife, government informants, and law enforcement actions under the RICO Act, the Philadelphia crime family remains one of the most active and influential mafia groups in the United States today. Number 1. Buffalo Crime Family. The Buffalo crime family, often referred to by various names including the Magadino crime family, Todaro crime family, New York State crime family, Buffalo Mafia, Upstate New York Mafia, or simply the ARM, is a prominent Italian-American organized crime group with its roots in Buffalo, New York. This criminal organization has been a major player in the underworld for decades, with its activities stretching across western New York, Erie, Pennsylvania, and extending into Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Formed in the early 1900s, the Buffalo crime family has a long history of involvement in a wide range of illegal enterprises, from extortion and loan sharking to drug trafficking and illegal gambling. The family's influence has also extended into legitimate businesses, which they have used as fronts for their criminal activities, like labor racketeering and drug trafficking. They have a reputation for being particularly secretive and hidden, often operating behind a face of respectability. One of the most significant figures in the history of the Buffalo crime family is Stefano Magadino, who was known for his ruthless tactics and for building the family's power base during the mid-20th century. Under his leadership, the Buffalo crime family became one of the most formidable crime syndicates in the northeastern United States. In recent years, the family has been known for its strong connections with other criminal organizations, particularly the Lupino and Papalia crime families based in Hamilton, Ontario. These alliances have strengthened the Buffalo crime family's reach and influence across borders. The current boss, Joseph A. Big Joe Todaro Jr., took over the leadership from his father, Joseph E. Lead Pipe Joe Todaro Sr., who was a notorious figure in his own right, known for his brutal enforcement tactics. Under Big Joe's leadership, the family has continued to maintain its grip on the criminal underworld, while navigating the challenges posed by law enforcement and rival gangs. Despite various attempts by authorities to dismantle their operations, the Buffalo crime family remains a powerful and influential force, continuing to operate through a complex network of associates and affiliates, both in the US and internationally. What do you think can be done to break these criminal families' hold on society? Let's know your thoughts in the comments below.